Hey, so do you guys worry about stress and how you're going to make things happen and get ahead of yourself? Like, for example, let's say that, okay, you know you can't afford where you live. This happened to me a couple of times. And you get so worried about what's going to happen. You get so focused, I guess, on where am I going to put my stuff? Where am I going to live? What's going to happen with my kids? Where are we ever going to go? And oh my gosh, how is this situation going to play out? Instead of pausing and going, listen, let's accept the reality. We're not going to be able to live where we've been living. The finances are just too thin, and we foresee that foreclosure or eviction is just inevitable. How can we be proactive to just go with this situation and know that we can't financially get out of this bad situation? Now, the first step would be to obviously acknowledge that there is no financial means to save you from this situation. Let's say you've analyzed to see if you're eligible for assistance, you're not, or even if you got assistance, you have no steady form of pay that would allow you to even stay in this place longer than a month or two, that the assistance would get you out of debt for a minute from. So that's not a long-term solution. So then you realize that, shoot, we definitely have to just accept and embrace that, we might be homeless for a little while. So how can we handle that? Well, one of the ways, I'm sharing all this from personal experience, by the way. So one of the ways is to just accept that, hey, you know what, I've got about 7 weeks or maybe even 2 weeks to get out of here. Otherwise, I'm going to end up evicted, and it's just going to be this horrible court battle and negativity, when really you both can just work together and go, your landlord or your bank, and say, hey, listen, I know I can't afford it. It's a total mistake. I didn't mean to put you in this position, but we're in it, so let's move forward. What you need to do is you need to get a storage box, because if you don't have a place lined up, and chances are you don't, since you're in a bad financial situation, and that's the whole reason you're trying to figure out where to go, try to get a storage box. If you can't afford one right away because you're super duper tight on finances, call friends and family. See if they'll let you just kind of store stuff temporarily on their porch, or like in a secure place, just until you can actually get, maybe for a week or two. Don't expect them to give up a part of their house or their shed for a long term, but maybe for a couple weeks or up to a month, they can help you just kind of keep your stuff there, the most important stuff. Now, if you don't have a way to store all of your stuff, you're going to have to go through it and really, really go through it, and just, you're going to have to walk away from a lot of stuff. That's just how it is. I did that twice. The second time I walked away from more than I realized, because I was actually in more of a mental clutter the second time than I was the first time. So really be sure, here's some things I missed. Really be sure to look for memorial stuff, like kids' first ornaments from great-grandparents, or wall hangings from great-grandparents, books from great-grandparents, photo albums that have, your childhood and your kids' childhood, or pictures from your great-grandparents, different things that you cannot replace. Make sure you first pack those into a nice tote. And those are the things that you're really going to want to make sure you have a friend or family that can store them. So once you've gone through everything and you know what you're keeping and you know what you're leaving behind or getting rid of, if you have time, host a yard sale, list them up for sale, or put stuff out for free. This alleviates the headache of your landlord or the bank having to clean out the place, because the whole point is that you're not trying to leave someone stranded. You're trying to just survive this unexpected situation. So once you have all of that set up, you know where stuff's going, you know what you're keeping, everything's organized, you've had a chat with your family and you're on board with what you're keeping and what you're letting go. Now you're going to figure out, where are you going to sleep? This is a little tougher. I definitely got called crazy when I said, hey, we're just going to live in a tent. But ultimately, that's what we did. So I would say just be very confident in what your options are. So if it's during a nice warm season, or you live in an area that's warm all year round, living in a tent for a few months isn't that unreasonable. It may not be amazing for those of you who don't like nature, but for people like us who love nature, it was actually pretty reasonable and cool for the summer. So you'll need a family-sized tent. I'll probably share the link. If this is on YouTube, you'll probably see the link to my family-sized tent down below. And I also got a regular-sized tent, and we had another bigger tent for food storage. So the smaller tent was used for our older son, who didn't want to share the family tent because he's like a teenager. But then our tween boy was in the family tent with us, so he had his own air mattress, and it was a pretty big tent. And so we planned that ahead. We made sure that we had the tents and we had the supplies we needed. Later on, we had to borrow cooking supplies to cook over fire. So a rack and some other things that my father lent us to use. So those are all the different things you need to prepare for. You're going to need to prepare for having food supply. You're going to need to prepare to have shelter. At one point, we did sleep in our cars, so you're going to have to be prepared to cover kind of the windows in your car. So if you're sleeping at a Walmart, who usually lets you sleep for about 3 nights in a car or camper, you're going to want to cover your windows so that people aren't seeing in when you're sleeping. And you're going to want to make sure your car locks work. And you're going to want to be open to sleeping in your car, because it's probably going to happen sometime. Sleeping in your car isn't that horrible. It's a little cramped, but it's pretty safe. You can do it in most Walmarts for about 3 days, and it allows you to save a little bit more money. We had to do that for like 2 or 3 weeks so we could save money to get into a home. And I think that if you let go of your pride and your ego and realize that this is what I got to do, it's okay. It's not as bad as it seems once you've experienced it. It's definitely not something I probably want to do again, but I'm glad we had that experience and survived, because it made us stronger, and it made my boys realize that, as a family, you can get through anything with the right mindset. It wasn't very super stressful at all, because we kept the right mindset and we kept going as parents, being the positive or even keeled example of how to get through this. And that's really my advice to you if you're going through troubles where you're about to be basically homeless and you don't know what to do and you're just so stressed out. I really hope that you can pause for a minute, use my advice. There's no need in getting all overwhelmed and having your blood pressure go up and your anxiety go high and your head hurt with headaches from stress. It's really sucks when you have to face this kind of financial situation of not having a home and having to figure out where to go with kids when you have nowhere to go. I get it. It is really overwhelming, and there were times I cried, and I took those feelings and I felt them, but then I quickly moved on to solutions, because I always want to be the right example. And the right example of a parent to me is to teach my children through what I do on how to cope with big emotions and really big situations that could be disastrous. I like to show them better ways to handle them so that they don't grow up to be stress balls that are dramatic about everything. I want to help them learn through example on how to remain calm and kind of weigh the pros and cons and be realistic and understand that we all fail, or we all have experiences like this from time to time, because life is very unpredictable. I hope you use these tips, and if you, for yourself or someone you love, if you know anyone that's facing this kind of situation, forward this video to them. I really want to help as many people as I can, because we live for 5 months, June, July, August, September, October, November, about 5.5 months, I think it was. So in tents, in vehicles, and a few weekends in hotels. And we're here. We're on the other side. We've been at our current home for a couple of years. So, and finances are stable because of our homeless adventures. We decided that we would never, or at least reduce the risk of ever being in that situation again. So we learned how to manage money. I'll teach you that step too later on. But your first step is to secure what you want to keep and secure a place for you guys to sleep safely. And just take one day at a time. Get through this step and then start focusing on how you can save money or do different tasks to get out of the situation of living in a car or a tent. Because if you take one day at a time with a focused goal, you will get out to the other side. And I'm here, I'm on the other side. And we made it. So I hope that these tips help you. Talk to you soon.